It's a good thing Bill Landis is back for some snap judgments because, boy, do we have a lot to talk about. He is Bill Landis. That's Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. Ohio State, they're a winner. They played a 4-quarter game. Ryan Day's finding some silver linings there. Got tested, pushed it down to the limit. Got a defensive stop when they had to. Got an touchdown to Quinshon Judkins right where we're standing right now. 21-17, big winners over Nebraska.
That's the takeaway, right?
See you guys later.
Game. Ryan Day called that a matchup game, by the way, which is insulting to anyone who watches Ohio State play football.
It's insulting to the word matchup.
To the word matchup, right? And then it totally takes away from when they actually play matchup games, and you call them that now. I thought they played.
It's a helmet matchup game.
Yeah, whatever. They would have lost to 20 teams today, the way that they played. To come out as flat as they did off of 2 weeks, to talk about how hungry they were and how they had everything in front of them, and then to play the way that they did, nearly losing to a Nebraska team that got its doors blown off by Indiana last week, I thought was pretty terrible. They got the win, they made the plays that they had to make at the end, but to quote Ryan Day, it shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. So they got some stuff to figure out.
I'm glad that so I got the microphone first and asked if he thought that they played as angry as he said they were going to. And he talked about, they don't play a lot of 4th-quarter games. Maybe the experience is good. But when he finally got to that point, it was like, can you tell us how you really feel? Which is, yes, it should have never come to that, Berm.
It shouldn't. I mean, this is not Nebraska did not come in here with a plan to win the game. They came in here with a plan to not get blown out. Yeah. And Ohio State played right into it.
Yeah.
And when you watch the Ohio State team today, it's clear that no matter how big of a loss we thought Josh Simmons was going to be, it's bigger. That's one thing. And then we'll talk about the loss of Zen Mahalski later and what that means maybe moving forward. But it seemed like the Ohio State offense was like, well, we can't run the ball, so we're just going to try to run the ball. This is where I get really frustrated because Ohio State has, without question, the best receivers in the country, in my opinion. And they threw the ball 16 times today in a game where you knew you couldn't run the ball. And you knew it from the first series of the game. You let Will Howard, who goes 9 for 9 in the first half, and that's not even that much, whatever. 2 of them were long touchdowns, so cool, whatever. You should be up 17-3 heading into half, maybe 17-6, and you don't have these weird vibes. You miss a field goal that you shouldn't miss because it's a 42-yard field goal or whatever.
It wasn't even close.
And then in the second half, they just keep running the ball when you can't do it. And sometimes I thought in the past Ryan Day would always sort of put himself in a position where he would be challenging his team to be like, we're going to do this even though we're not doing it, just to see if we can do it. And I didn't really anticipate that Chip Kelly would buy into that as well, but it sure seemed like he did. And when you get the ball back with 6.5 minutes to go in the game at your own 40, and all you have to do is put up 3 points essentially to win the game, and you go 3 and out, and it's just you run 2 times in the middle of the line, one play after Zen Mahalski gets hurt, and then the third down play, you just surrender 8 yards in a tunnel screen that nobody was fooled by. It was very concerning to watch this team. And then thankfully the defense showed up, and kudos to the crowd because they finally showed up in the 4th quarter. It got loud, and that changed the game. But this was ugly from the start.
Well, they were also loud because they were booing the Ohio State offense.
Sometimes you need that, I guess. I mean, the officials in some way inspired the crowd to wake up. But
shout out to the officials.
Nice job.
Yeah,
there was from both the team and the crowd. I don't really put it on the crowd because what do they have to be excited about? But there was no juice in here. That was.
We thought when we got here this morning that might be the case, and that Ohio State had to bring it and supply it, even when they showed up, and even when they got to Skull Session. We kept hearing about these. Well, they're 10 minutes late getting in here. Or they don't want to do. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. I don't know everything that happened. It is logistically difficult to move a football team around. But when they arrived, I thought, oh, this might be one of those mess around games. I didn't think it was one that they could potentially lose, but they very nearly did. You cannot tell me. There's no way you could convince me. I did think the defense played better overall.
They were on the field a lot.
But they had to play a ton. And I think some of that is because they, even when Ohio State's not converting any third downs, they're 1 for 10 in the game, 1 for 2 on 4th down. They were giving up more 3rd and long situations, and Dylan Raiola was able to run for 38 yards to launch a scoring drive. When Nebraska wasn't throwing screens and purposely inflicting damage on itself, I didn't think Ohio State was that effective in getting off the field. Now, we'll certainly rewatch, just like Ohio State's coaching staff will, but there's no world where you could convince me that Ohio State showed up ready to beat Nebraska.
They did not. And put some on the players, I suppose. I think it's much more of an indictment on the coaching staff to not have this team ready and locked in after losing the way they lost in Eugene. Like, I think there were a lot of people who were very unhappy with what happened in Eugene, but then there was also a segment of the fan base who I think expressed a lot of belief in Ohio State moving forward from that the dynamics were different. There was still a lot to play for, right? And gave some benefit of the doubt to a coaching staff to like get the team pointed back in the right direction. And I'm not saying the season's over because there are a lot of games left, but this was an opportunity to show that they had an ability to do that, and they certainly did not.
There was a moment, and maybe this is just a microcosm of the entire day for Ohio State. After Nebraska takes the lead, Ohio State gets the ball with 11 minutes to go in the game. Mm-hmm. Their offense hadn't been on the field in a while. Will Howard was on the sideline trying to get loosened up and trying to throw some football, and there was no footballs. And he stood there for 2.5 minutes going, like looking for a football because the ball boys weren't there. And he's like, so the kickers ended up having to give him a kicking ball so he could warm up with that. Like it's a day where, again, we said it for coming in. Like it was very dead in here this morning. The crowd certainly had no reason to get loud. But, when you have 2 long touchdowns in the first half, like there's a reason to start getting some juice. And then it's just nope. And then, again, kudos to them, the crowd who did stay for this game and showed up in the fourth quarter because it was loud in those last 5 minutes. Nebraska, you saw the impact that it can make. There's a lot of bad things about this game. I don't know how we're gonna. I don't
think there's a single way to spin it as a positive. Yeah. Ryan Day tried to.
He tried. I'm not
for the first 30% of his.
Like this did not answer the question of whether or not the defense can get stops in the fourth quarter. Nebraska doesn't have a good offense. Like they'll face a better offense next week. They'll face a better offense than that when Indiana comes here. Whatever. They made the plays they had to make, but Ryan Day trying to spin it the way he did not really sit well with me. Maybe he's just saying the things he feels like he needs to say and doesn't want to rip his team in a press conference, but I did not inspire a lot of belief in me that they think that they're doing the right things to get this team pointed in the direction it needs to be because they weren't today. And then the response afterward was like a gritty fourth quarter win. Like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have heard me say this a bunch on Snap Judgments before. Like, you cannot say that your program mantra is tough love. And I get that being in the locker room over there and going to the press conference are two different things. But if you need to send a message, how many times have we seen coaches do that with a microphone in their hand to amplify the message, whether that is to engender more passion from the fan base, whether that is to tell the locker room that your jobs might be in jeopardy or that everything you've worked for, all your goals are on the line and that you might lose them all. I sincerely hope, and maybe tomorrow when they get into the champions meeting, and I don't know how many there will be from this game, that the message is very different than what he gave publicly, because that's not tough love to say, we needed to make some plays in the fourth quarter and did it. They just played a 4-quarter game against a much better team, and the performance against Oregon was roughly 1 billion times better. They already know that they can win those games. They were a second away from doing that. You shouldn't put yourself in a situation where hey, can you battle back against Nebraska? That's nonsense.
And obviously there's not, as Bill said, there's no positives here. I appreciate
the positive, I guess, is he didn't lose.
I appreciate that Ryan Day called out his offensive line in as much way as he's going to in a press conference. Was very direct, not good enough, major problems. Like he said it over and over. They averaged less than 3 yards a carry with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. That's not good enough. I watched Indiana play this team last week, and they did whatever they wanted to them. And I realized that you lose Josh Simmons, and that's going to change your psyche. But I just didn't see an offense that seemed to have anything new. There was they didn't even do the things that were old that worked. It was just uninspired. They had 23 plays of offense in the first half, and then just came out in the second half completely flat. It is
10 plays for 23 yards in the third quarter, no first downs.
It is there's players' execution, and there's always that we can talk about. But that is a coaching staff that did not have their guys ready to go. Period. Especially on offense. I still have some questions on defense. I still don't know why we've got JT Tuimoloau on a wide 9 all day long.
They definitely changed some things. It's you can question the effectiveness of it, I guess.
But it seemed like most of
the changes were in the secondary,
or that it came by dialing up more linebacker blitzes. Maybe I'll be wrong about that. But in terms of personnel, Edric Houston did play in the first half, but he played at 3 technique. I wasn't really anticipating that being one of the solutions. And largely, we'll double check the snap counts when we get to that, on Sunday, but it seemed like Ohio State was content to let Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, Ty Hamilton, and Tyleik Williams play the duration of the game, for the most part. And when they went to the Rushman package, we didn't see an adjustment. We still saw Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson playing inside when, quite clearly, I don't know of anyone else who's looked at this roster and said, you line up those 4 people, play these 2 guys on the inside and those 2 on the outside. I don't understand it.
You're giving offensive linemen like everything they want there.
Easier matchups.
You're saying here, a guard and center, you go up against the 6'2.5", 260-pound defensive end.
So those things I feel like did not change. What it did change was we saw different personnel groupings, which Ohio State had to use in the secondary to account for the loss of Lathan Ransom, and an abundance of blitzes from, the way that I remember it anyway, from Cody Simon and Sonny Styles. Some stuff from Marvell Reese that is not going to be in the arsenal in the first half next week against Penn State because he's going to be suspended until the third quarter thanks to his ejection, which clearly Berm didn't agree with. I think by the letter of the law, it was probably correct.
I don't care about the letter of the law.
Yeah,
I think there's Mitchell Schwartz, actually, former NFL offensive lineman, now like an analyst, I thought put it well. That is the rule. The rule does not understand the physics of football. So, I don't know what Arvell Reese is supposed to do there. Cody Simon, after the game, said that he felt like he put Arvell in a tough spot because he missed an assignment. So then Arvell had to come flying across the field to make that hit. But Arvell Reese did not do anything.
He hit him
wrong.
with the shoulder.
I want to make one more point that is behind the scenes, and I hate that this wound up happening the way that it did. But Bill, what did I say before that play? Because Nebraska is facing 1st and 22. And one of the subgroups is what Ohio State did right before that play, and they put Arvell back out there in base. Nebraska has literally no choice but to throw, and Ohio State had the personnel dictated to them by the opponent. This is a point that Berm has made a ton.
You don't have to just throw another linebacker out there because there's 2 tight ends.
Yeah, they took Jordan Hancock and Lorenzo Styles off the field, put Jalen McLean and Arvell Reese on the field, which is what they had done all game when Nebraska went to 12 personnel, no matter what this down distance situation
It's 1st and 22 with 3.5 minutes to go in the game. They're at the 12-yard line. They're not going to run the ball.
Yeah.
And if they do run it for 8 yards, who cares?
Let them do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's certainly not meant to pat myself on the back because I was wanting to punch myself in the head instead.
Well, there's only 2 options. Sometimes it's a back pat or a head punch.
Yeah.
They played. They did take Denzel Burke off the field. I think still, again, maybe a little slower than they should have, but I think the second to last defensive drive for them, Jermaine Matthews was playing corner with Davis Nigbenosin and Denzel Burke, who I thought he tackled pretty well in space in this game, but coverage-wise, I think.
Jermaine?
No, Denzel Burke did, but coverage-wise, I think did not have another good game. He got fortunate that the guy didn't complete that catch early in the game.
You notice they moved him. Coverage. They flipped sides of the field, though. They put him on the field side.
Yeah, they were doing some different stuff. Yeah.
But then when one issue popped up, another emerged. Well, it's not even a new one. Davis Nigbenosin continues to – he was flagged 3 times for pass interference. 1 was declined. He's the most penalized player on Ohio State's defense again for the 2nd year in a row.
One of those was on 3rd and 7 on the touchdown drive too, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Something's got to change almost like every single spot. I did think the linebackers played well. I thought Will Howard threw some nice deep balls. He had the 2 touchdowns early on. But I shouldn't feel like we have to grasp for straws like that.
No, but I also think that there is a problem, and this is not meant to be an excuse about it, but we're talking about the game. Officiating sucks. Okay?
Well, yeah.
The receivers, and kudos to the officials, they did call the whistle twice on offensive pass interference on Nebraska. Those receivers were just pushing off the entire game. And so the one where Denzel Burke gets called for a PI down here on the sideline, it was Igbenosin. He was being dragged down to the ground by the guy. It was not – I think that, he's handsy. That's not going to change. But in the ACC, that seems to be okay. I mean, in the SEC, that seems to be okay. In the Big Ten, it's not.
He's got to be careful because I think – teams are going to try to take advantage of that now, right? He is a physical, handsy football player. They're going to do the same with him and hope they end up on the right side of a 50-50 ball.
I said it after Ohio State ran the screen on 3rd and 9 and lost 8 yards in their final offensive possession before the kneel downs. But you have the best receiver in the country. Ohio State doesn't do the take 2 steps and just heave it to the receiver and hope for a PI. Other teams are pretty comfortable doing that. I don't know why Ohio State refuses to let its receivers be in a position to go make a play like that. Because if you're in that position, you just lose your backup left tackle, It's 3rd and 9. If you don't get the first down, either way, you're punting it back. So who cares? Like, just take a shot and put 4 wide out there and let Jeremiah Smith go beat someone one-on-one. It seems like they're just content at times not dominating. And that it's something I've said from the beginning of the season. I just don't feel like they're violent enough. I don't think that they're passionate enough. And I don't know how. I know Ryan Day's a passionate person, but it seems like there's like a divide when he crosses the line sometimes. It's like the personal passion that he has doesn't get translated to the team, and I don't know why.
Well, I
wonder if it's not even the most passionate he was when Arvell Reese got ejected for targeting.
And it very nearly cost Ohio State.
Yeah, and he should have got a penalty for it.
He didn't get a penalty.
No, they gave him a sideline warning. I'd have to take a look. I thought that he may have made contact. I was still waiting up there to see what was going to happen with that drive before Bill and I came down to the field, and I thought, that's 15 extra plus the ejection plus 15, like 30-yard penalty. Then they made it a completion. Like if he is guilty of that again for another penalty on himself in the same season, like there's so many things that happened today that it's hard to wrap your mind around this whole effort. Like, it makes me question if this team can get to its goals, and that's just not a fun place to be.
And
I think it's fair.
It's not just that it's not a fun place to be. It's something that seems almost impossible to be audibilizing after the way this team was built in the offseason. But there's real questions. I don't know where you go on the offensive line at this point. Again, Zen Michalski was not. I don't think Zen Michalski was going to be the answer against Abdul Carter anyway next week in Happy Valley, considering the way he played in the first half today. But now that he's out, I just don't know where you go, and everything changes. You saw the clock in Will Howard's head change in the second half.
Yeah.
And that's the first time that's happened all year. Now, kudos to Will. He still finished 13-16 and had a pretty good day. But there are questions that I don't know how you get answered in a week on this offensive line heading into Penn State, a Penn State team that is going to be super aggressive defensively against Ohio State, knowing what they know about the left tackle situation.
Yeah, they're gonna come after him. I thought they should have taken Zen out before he got hurt. I asked Ryan Day why they didn't. He said they wanted to let him play through some struggles in the first start of his career. I guess I get that on some point, but he had blown assignments like on the first 3 drives that helped them not help those drives stall out. So he said Donovan Jackson was their break glass in case of emergency today if anything happened. He did not necessarily say that would be the plan moving forward, but if they put Zen out there today with the way that he played, I can't imagine they feel great about any other tackles. So
yeah, they had 2 weeks.
They had 2 weeks. And I tried to ask during the week about the process of picking Zen, and Ryan Day, I guess, didn't really want to go there. He just said they believed in him. There are other tackles on this roster, but if that's what that was the best option put out on the field today, then I guess there's reason to not be super enthused that there are better options other than Donovan Jackson next week.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Berm, do you have anything else that you want to add?
No, I mean, I do wonder how much of this is just paralysis by analysis for the Ohio State coaching staff heading into the game. Like, you are hyper-focused on how do we fix. You lose your best offensive lineman. You lose the heart and soul of your defense. Mm-hmm. You lose. There's a lot of things that you're trying to fix all at once, and I think in some ways they didn't fix any of it because they were just trying to do too much, and especially on defense. I thought played fairly well. 13 tackles for loss, 3 sacks against a team that was trying not to give them up. I mean, Dylan Raiola was 5 yards per attempt.
He threw a bunch of screens
today.
They had the screen game lockdown.
I really wonder
what
would have happened in this game if Nebraska had not called 15 screen passes.
I mean, he missed a wide open receiver. Would have been a touchdown.
Well, he missed a wide open there. He missed. Jermaine Matthews fell down, and they still scored on that drive. But
I feel like they were surprised that they were expecting to get pressure, and Ohio State still couldn't.
And I'm not sure they tried. I know they blitzed more,
blitzed a lot,
but if you're not getting pressure from your front four, and I think it's fair to be measured here. They did get a sack from Jack Sawyer, got a sack from JT Tuimoloau.
Nobody blocked.
JT was completely unblocked.
JT was not blocked, but it's a sack.
Okay.
So you do get some productivity out of those guys, but I just don't see. I see the exact same problem I saw against Oregon, which is they're running 3 yards past the quarterback, who then steps up and just saunters down the middle of the field. And that can't keep happening. And that won't happen if you stop letting your defensive ends line up in this wide 9 and just say, here, look at this giant rush lane. Would you like to eat it? Because even Nebraska's run game, which has been terrible, was ripping off 13, 14-yard runs in the second half left and right. So, what is Larry Johnson doing? Because there is a major problem with that defensive line missing assignments, not being where they're supposed to be, and just generally inviting teams to run right up the middle against them.
I don't know the answer, but Ohio State has a week to figure it out before they go play at Penn State in one of the biggest games of the year. Not what I would consider carrying a lot of momentum with them into next week, but they did win. They're back in the win column. They're 6-1 heading into November. So November is for contenders, and we're going to find out pretty quickly if that's what the Buckeyes are. They were not today, but they were winners, 21-17 over Nebraska. These are snap judgments. It was wonderful to have Bill Landis back for them for a game. That's Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. We'll see you.